Sleep paralysis can be a frightening experience due to its ability to cause someone to feel like they can't move or speak. In some cases, people feel like there's a presence in the room with them, a familiar shadow that some of us may be familiar with. It's safe to say that sleep paralysis can be alarming, but it's generally not harmful and will typically resolve on its own. Nonetheless, we can't ignore the fact that it does have its terrifying moments. It's thought to be caused by disruptions to the sleep cycle, and it can be triggered by sleep deprivation, stress, jet lag, or changes in sleeping habits. Let's take a look at some terrifying facts about the strange phenomenon that has been linked to sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis can be both fascinating and terrifying for those that have experienced it. It occurs when your sleep cycle is shifting between different stages, but is most likely to happen during the REM stage when the body is temporarily paralyzed. You may also experience hallucinations or the commonly associated shadowy people in the corner of the room. The cause of hallucinations most commonly occurs when you experience sleep paralysis during the REM stage. The disruption between the dream world and suddenly regaining awareness of the real world causes both worlds to merge for a brief moment, causing the person to experience even more vivid hallucinations. It's safe to say that most of us hate getting nightmares, and from the sounds of it, having sleep paralysis ends up being a guaranteed recurring nightmare that is even more intense than the average bad dream. It's hard enough to fall asleep, let alone when you have no idea what to expect between falling asleep and waking up in the morning. Hallucinations, combined with the body's inability to move during hallucinations, has a way of making bad dreams look like enjoyable experiences when you're comparing them. If you've ever found yourself paralyzed in bed, unable to move or speak, you're not alone. Sleep paralysis is a phenomenon that affects about 1 in 25 people, meaning there's a good chance you know not one, but multiple people dealing with the same thing. Like we've already covered, sleep paralysis ends up taking place when the person transitions from sleep to wakefulness, but remains in a state of partial paralysis. It might seem a little out of the ordinary, but it's actually a common occurrence that's happening when people are falling asleep or waking up. When our bodies begin to relax and drift off to sleep, the mind may still be awake and aware, pretty much the opposite of sleepwalking. This can lead to a feeling of being trapped in your own body and having no control over it. In some cases, multiple instances of sleep paralysis can occur on the same night, which adds to a sense of fear and confusion. Sleep paralysis can affect both men and women of any age, with the average age of a person experiencing this first sleep paralysis being between the ages of 14 and 17 years old. Sleep paralysis can be unsettling, but it's important to remember that it typically occurs more often by bad sleeping habits or a lack of sleep, which explains why a high percentage of people experience them. If you find yourself regularly experiencing sleep paralysis, then it's best to find the root cause of any bad sleeping habits you may have and to try to improve on them. Narcolepsy is a sleep disorder that affects the brain's ability to regulate sleep-wake cycles, and people with narcolepsy will usually experience excessive daytime fatigue and the irresistible urge to fall asleep during the day, also known as sleep attacks. They may also have difficulty staying awake for long periods of time and may fall asleep unexpectedly during activities like talking or eating. We all know that one person that finds a way to fall asleep at any given moment. It's almost seen as a skill to be able to sleep just about anywhere at any given time, seeing how many people struggle to get a decent sleep. When it comes to narcolepsy, there's two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 narcolepsy is characterized by all four symptoms we just listed, excessive daytime fatigue, irresistible urge to fall asleep during the day, difficulty staying awake for long periods of time, and falling asleep unexpectedly. People with type 1 narcolepsy almost always experience episodes of sleep paralysis and hallucinations while falling asleep or waking up. Type 2 narcolepsy is less severe. People with type 2 narcolepsy only experience one or two of the four symptoms we listed above. Most commonly, excessive daytime fatigue and irresistible urges to fall asleep during the day. People with type 2 narcolepsy may also experience episodes of sleep paralysis and hallucinations while falling asleep, but not as frequently as those with type 1 narcolepsy. There's nothing worse than waking up in the middle of the night only to find that you can't move. You try to scream, but it feels like someone is choking you. Your heart races, and it sounds like the start of a kidnapping taking place from a random intruder. Fortunately, in this situation, that isn't the case. It turns out that exact same feeling takes place when you're experiencing sleep paralysis. During the REM stages of sleep, nerve pathways in the brain prevents muscles from moving, which results in temporary paralysis. This happens to prevent the body from acting out their dreams and self-harming themselves while they sleep. This combination of temporary paralysis and a sudden sense of awareness can cause a sense of terror in most people. In some cases, people may feel like they're being choked or suffocated, and with the body being paralyzed, the situation feels even more real. Sleep paralysis usually only lasts a few minutes, but minutes tend to drag on when we're in a situation that feels unfavorable. Feeling like you're being choked for minutes at a time will end up feeling like eternity, and probably makes you scared to fall asleep the next day. The worst part? Once you start stressing about sleep paralysis, you're only fueling the fire. You end up stuck in the cycle of being stressed about your stress, which results in even more stress. Ultimately, that increases your chance of having sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is one of those things that you never really know exist until it happens to you. And when it does, it's pretty creepy. You're lying in bed, trying to sleep, when all of a sudden you feel like someone's pressing down on your chest, preventing you from moving or speaking. It's like being trapped in a nightmare, and the only way to escape is to wake up. But unfortunately, there's no real cure for sleep paralysis. The only thing you can do during a sleep paralysis episode is to make yourself aware that it's happening so that it'll reduce the amount of fear you may experience. Similar to lucid dreaming in a way. As far as preventing sleep paralysis, there are a few ways to reduce the chances of experiencing it. The first thing is to simply get enough sleep. As silly as it sounds, the main cause of sleep paralysis is sleep deprivation, so giving yourself a full night's rest will greatly decrease the chances of experiencing sleep paralysis. The second thing is to not fight it when your body is trying to sleep. As you're laying down and relaxing for the night, your body starts to go through the 4 stages of sleep, sometimes without you even noticing. By fighting the urge to sleep, you have a greater chance of the mind staying awake while your body slips into paralysis. This results in an even nightmarish experience as you suddenly slip into sleep paralysis while being awake. Most people have experienced this at some point during their lives, and this can be prevented by just allowing yourself to close your eyes and rest. If you do experience sleep paralysis, just try not to panic. It may be scary, but it's not harmful, and it will eventually go away on its own. Just know it can come and go at any moment. There's no doubt, sleep paralysis is a terrifying concept in a situation that no one wants to find themselves in. From fear to choking, to hallucinations and lack of control, it's safe to say that we would all like to avoid ever having to experience a situation where we are stuck dealing with sleep paralysis. But try not to stress about it too much, or you might just find yourself opening the door for sleep paralysis. Thanks for watching our late night top 5 channel. We're a new channel and would love to have your support by subscribing, liking, or simply dropping a comment down below. To watch more interesting late night videos, click the links to continue watching more.